Qatar's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been giving a news conference. Let's listen in to the spokesman, Majid al-Ansari.
The Emir of Qatar, may God protect him. He examined with his brother, President Ahmed al-Shara of Syria, the global and regional development during the latter's visit to the state of Qatar. Both reiterated their mutual keenness on the regional stability and security, and they also discussed bilateral relations. On Thursday last, His Royal Highness received Mr. Guido Cressito, the Italian defense minister. He also received Mr. Patrick Pouyanné, the CEO and chairman of Total Energies of France. As part of the ongoing communications with global and regional partners, and as part of the ongoing efforts aiming at de-escalation, on Friday last, His Royal Highness received a phone call from the U.S. President Donald Trump. During the call, they examined and discussed the latest development and the outcomes of the negotiations on the ceasefire between the United States and Iran and the global efforts aiming at cementing the ceasefire. During the call, His Royal Highness reiterated the necessity to support amicable and diplomacy in order to support the ongoing mediation efforts exerted by Pakistan in order to reinforce stability and security within the region. Today, Tuesday, His Royal Highness the Emir of Qatar, may God protect him, will lead the Qatar delegation taking part in the extraordinary consultative summit to be convened in Jeddah of Saudi Arabia today. This, of course, will be centered on the regional developments and the means to address the Iranian assault at the civil and energy installations, and also the repercussions of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, including the disruption of supply chains, global energy, and food security. With respect to the Minister of State, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al-Thani, the Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs received the Foreign Minister of Kazakhstan, Erway Kozubayev. And yesterday, Monday, he received telecommunications from Othman Somo, the Prime Minister of Senegal, and Badr Abdul Ati, the Foreign Minister of Egypt. He also held telephone calls with His Excellency Prince Faisal bin Farhan, the Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia, and Dr. Mustafa Kemal Madbouli, the Prime Minister of Egypt. During these calls, Sheikh Mohammed Abdulrahman offered condolences to Mr. Madbouli on the demise of his father. On Tuesday last, he received a telephone call from Abbas Araghchi, the Foreign Minister of Iran. During the call, his Sheikh Abdurrahman reiterated the necessity to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, stressing the negative impact on the region and the disruption of supply chain, as well as global security and food, energy and food security, and also stressed the necessity to support the ongoing mediation efforts. Yesterday, Monday, Mr. Mohammed bin Aziz bin Al Khalifi, Minister of State, met with Jean-Pierre Lacroix, the Undersecretary for Peace Operations of the United Nations, where they discussed the peacekeeping efforts in Congo. And he also commended the role undertaken by the state of Qatar in diplomacy, mediation, aiming at reinforcing global peace and security. That's all for this week's briefing, and I open the floor to questions. Where is the mic? Thank you, Professor Ansari. Al-Arabi TV. The convening of the Gulf Consultative Summit, does it reflect the fears that the ongoing Pakistani mediation efforts would fail, and would this summit come out with a plan B, or is it a step forward in case the ongoing mediations fail? Also, with respect to the Strait of Hormuz, has any of Qatar's tankers or vessels attempt to cross the waterway, and were they subject to any interception activities by IRG? Thank you. For the first time, you posed 2 questions only. With respect to the summit, I leave the matter to the Secretary General of the summit in order to update you on the details. However, we reiterate Qatar's commitment to the Gulf dynamics, and from day one we have been coordinating with our brothers in the GCC, in the bloc, and this has been demonstrated in the shuttle visits and telecommunications between His Royal Highness the Emir of Qatar and his counterparts, the rulers of the region. This is the convening of the summit is normal course of action as part of the ongoing coordination. And with respect to the Qatari vessels, our top priority here is to maintain the safety and well-being of those operating on those vessels. That's why we are waiting for the outcomes of the negotiations, and we reiterate that the gravity of the use of the Strait of Hormuz as a bargaining chip, as it will have a dire impact on the global energy security, food security, and disruption of supply chain, and where the markets can no longer tolerate these repercussions. Thank you, Professor Ansari. The questions is also on Hormuz, which lies between the dual siege and the total shutdown. The Gulf nations are direly impacted. Where are the roles of the GCC countries amid the uncertainty of the ongoing negotiations? On the other hand, what is Qatar's diplomacy role when it comes to the situation in Lebanon? As to the first part of your question, I reiterate my usual answer. There is total coordination with our brothers in Pakistan and their mediation efforts. And as you have seen, many visits within the Gulf countries by the Pakistani Prime Minister, the circle of negotiations cannot be widened any further, and all what we have to do is to offer support to these efforts. As to the situation in Lebanon, you are all aware of Qatar's support to Lebanon, be it in support to the Lebanese armed forces to live up to their duties, or in terms of coordination with our global and regional partners, or as part of the daily telecommunications. There is no specifics, but support is ongoing, and as well as communication.
Thank you. But we've seen Pakistan take the lead on...
Can you introduce yourself first, please?
Sorry. Joe Khalil, News Nation. We've seen Pakistan take the lead on some of these peace negotiations now. This is a role mediator that Qatar has historically played. Can you just describe how this situation is different and the role now that Qatar is playing? And I have a second question. At the beginning of this conflict, there were several Gulf country leaders that were pushing the United States to degrade Iran's military capabilities even further. Now it seems like the message has changed. Leadership in Qatar here, and we've seen other leaders in the region now calling for a quicker peace, an end to the conflict. Why do you think there has been a bit of a change and shift in tone?
Thank you. First of all, regarding the role that Qatar is playing in this mediation, let me confirm a couple of things. One is we are fully supportive of the role of Pakistan as mediator here. Two, we don't think that right now the issue is with the mediator. or the problems with the mediator. We think Pakistan is doing a great job in their mediation. We are, as I said, supportive of this. And 3, Qatar has always been in coordination with all its partners regionally and beyond over that issue. We have been coordinating with our brothers in Pakistan and international interlocutors to find an end to this crisis, and we remain in full solidarity with Pakistan in their role as mediator. On the other question, let me just disagree with the premise here. For Qatar, our position has been clear from day one. Any conflict in the region should be solved on the negotiation table. And we believed in the negotiation process, and we were supportive of the negotiation process, and we will remain supportive of a diplomatic resolution. However, for the past couple of months, our main focus was on protecting our sovereignty, protecting the people that live in Qatar, our people and the residents here in Qatar, and protecting our prosperity through the actions that we have taken up to this point. So our focus was on that. The Pakistanis have done the role of mediator up to this point in a very positive manner, which we are supporting. And I don't think that there was a general GCC push for more escalation with Iran. I think if you go back to before this war has started, there was actually a rapprochement where we were attempting to find a diplomatic resolution through engagement with Iran. I think this is a position that Qatar has always held. However, we have made it very clear that we will not be used as political punching bags in this war, that any attack on our sovereignty cannot be justified by any means, and we have taken all the necessary precautions to make sure that we are safe from this aggression that has come to our country, and we are supportive right now of the process of the mediation, of course. Callum?
Hi, Dr. Majid. Callum Payton from AFP. Nice to be in another location this week. The US has said it's studying a proposal from Iran to open the Strait. I wonder if Qatar would support an initiative where a deal to reopen the Strait was reached separate from discussions on other issues with Iran, like the nuclear program. And then in the Israeli press or amongst Israeli journalists, there's been some speculation of whether Qatar is reevaluating its relationship with Hamas as a result of the Iranian attacks. I wonder if you recognize this reevaluation. But I suppose more generally, given Hamas's ties with Iran at times and a shift in relations across the Gulf with Iran as a result of the attacks, can you give us an update on the status of the office here? Is it still functioning? Does it still serve a mediation purpose?
I've already forgot your first question. I'm sorry.
On reopening the Strait of...
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let me answer that first. So on reopening the Strait, first of all, we have said from day one, the act of blocking navigation through the Strait is not something that can be justified or accepted in any situation. And using the Strait as leverage in any political or military conflict is something that we refuse as a premise. And therefore, anything that justifies or legitimizes the use of the Strait as a political weapon, for us this is not accepted in any means. But we are engaging with all our interlocutors to get the Strait opened as soon as possible. We believe it should have never been closed, and it should be opened immediately, regardless of other considerations going on in the region. So we are not. I won't comment on the specific idea now regarding the talks, but what I would say is that closing the Strait is not something that we accept in any way or under any justification. Regarding the media reports you have talked about, first of all, if we stopped our mediation or halted our mediation efforts in any case, in any context, as a result of media statements here and there, we would have not done any mediation anyway. Because in any mediation, of course, you'll have someone reporting to one of the parties come out and blame the mediator or make accusations against the mediator and so on. We have seen that a lot before. We have seen it from ministers in Israeli cabinet throughout the mediation, attacking Qatar as a means of justifying the war in Gaza, but that has never been a reason why we stopped the mediation. Let me confirm that we are continuing our role in the mediation. We are working with our partners in Egypt and Turkey on the mediation very closely. Our teams are working on the ground with them. We have not stopped that role, and we don't envision this role stopping anytime soon. And if you look at the situation right now, there is momentum in the talks with the developments that are taking place, and we are part of that momentum. Now, very quickly on the source of this, because I want to make it very clear that usually I don't like to comment on specific sources, but in this case we have seen the same source produce similar false information, and it's being picked up by international media. Let me stress that all of these claims are baseless, and this source has been linked to one party in the conflict in a way that's not savory for a journalist to do so. And therefore, this long history of spreading false information about Qatar and regional affairs should not be complemented through picking up everything that the source puts out there. But for us, again, I make it very clear, our role in the mediation continues. Our communication with the parties in the region continues, and there is no change to that. Yes.
Thank you. Raf Sanchez, NBC News. Dr. Ansari, thank you for doing this briefing. Good to see you again. You've just said that the Strait of Hormuz should not be used as a bargaining chip. Would you like to see the United States end its own blockade in the Strait as a way of lowering tensions?
No, let me make it very clear. The closing of the Strait of Hormuz has resulted in economic implications for the whole world, whether it be energy security of the international community, whether it be food security, whether it be the supply chains and disruption in the supply chains, prices of energy around the world. It is in nobody's interest for a pathway that has provided the world with all of these securities throughout the years and has never been closed for any reason to be used as a political bargaining chip or to be used as leverage in this fight. But we also acknowledge that the reason that this has happened is the fact that there is a war in the region. So our focus is on ending that war, on reaching a diplomatic solution that hopefully would mean that you would not resort back to the use of the Strait as leverage. But of course, we call on all parties to open the Strait immediately. And we also acknowledge that the first action in the closing of the Strait was with the Iranians deciding to close down the Strait unilaterally.
And just to follow up, there's a lot of discussion right now about what should or shouldn't be in an agreement, about whether it needs to include both a deal to open the Strait and to deal with Iran's nuclear program. What are the priorities for Qatar and regional countries? Would it be acceptable to you if there was a deal that reopened the Strait and left the nuclear issue for another day?
No. There is an overall picture that everybody would tell you, which is that the main concern right now in the region is the security of the region. The threat perception in the region has changed as a result of this war. The stability has been put into question of the region as a result of this war. And what we need right now are security guarantees that would make sure that we would not return to the situation a couple of months down the road. So yes, we want a comprehensive deal that would address the interests of all the peoples in the region, including the Iranians and our people, and the concerns of the international community regarding Iran. Now, that said, we also know that peace is incremental. We are not saying that we are against any deal that would, first of all, maintain the ceasefire, which is a positive trajectory for us, but also would put into question the whole situation in the region. Therefore, we are supportive of the efforts of Pakistan in this, and we'll revert back to the Pakistanis on how they want to go forward and how they are going forward. And as I said, we are coordinating with them very closely.
السلام عليكم دكتور أنا خالد طوالبة وكالة أنباء الصين
China, our news agency, amid the growing regional mediation efforts and new mediators are introduced on the line between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Are we in the process of reshaping the mediation dynamics in the region rather than the traditional one, or those mediators to be are moving within limited margins between Tehran and Washington? And on the other hand, when would the GCC state openly that Iran's intransigence and U.S. pressures are undermining the regional security. Again, times and again, diplomacy and amicable settlement is the safest and most reasonable way. The Gulf states have proven, historically speaking, their effectiveness in their mediation efforts. They have become the world destination when it comes to mediation for the resolving of conflicts. This is naturally now as the crisis is unfolding in the region. In this particular crisis, as the Gulf states have been under daily attacks and their sovereignty were attacked, we are giving the Pakistani ample room in order to allow their diplomacy effort and mediation efforts to succeed. Mediation efforts cannot tolerate any further, but only to support the ongoing Pakistani mediation efforts.
Amran Aryan from QBS Radio. How do you see the Iranian response to Qatar's concern over Hormuz Strait?
Which response are you?
Response, I mean, Qatar is concerned about closing the Hormuz, and how did it take it seriously, or?
Well, obviously, we have maintained our position since day one that closing the Strait of Hormuz is not to be accepted or legitimized in any way, and our calls for opening the straits have remained unchanged from day one, and that the strait should not be used as political leverage in any means by any party.
Hi, Dr. Majid, Adil Halim, Euronews. You've spoken previously in the past highly about the relationship with European partners. Is Qatar and regional partners engaged with in the European efforts for reopening of the Hormuz Strait, led by France and the UK, and are you coordinating with them?
Thank you. Of course, we attended the meeting hosted by the UK and France on that issue, and we remain engaging with them over that issue. We're supportive of all and every international effort that would lead to a diplomatic solution and that would lead to the opening of the strait and to securing the strait in the future. But we are still in preliminary talks, of course, with all these parties, with our regional partners. But we applaud our partners in Europe for taking the lead on this. And as I said, we attended, represented by our Minister of State, and we are continuing to engage with them on that. Please.
Thank you for this briefing. Celia from TF1 French TV. What are you expecting from the visit of the French minister planned on Thursday? What are you expecting of this visit, and maybe some help from France in this situation?
Thank you. First of all, let me say that there is a huge appreciation in Qatar and in the region for the support that we have received from all our partners internationally, but especially from France and European partners who have shown a great deal of reliability as partners and as allies in this conflict. The visit of His Excellency, the Minister, of course, was hugely appreciated under the current circumstances, and he has had meetings with the highest echelons of authority in our country to discuss defense partnerships and security partnerships, and to assess the current situation and how France and Qatar can play an important role for stability in this region and beyond. Andrew?
Thanks, Dr. Majid. Andrew Mills from Reuters. In light of the GCC summit later on today, is there a discussion among the GCC countries about a possible military role for the Gulf in either reopening Hormuz or in responses to potential future attacks from Iran onto the region? And if that is under discussion, would it be Qatar's position at the GCC, the same position that you've said at this podium many times, that these conflicts get ended at the negotiation table, and you would not encourage a GCC military role?
Thank you. First of all, far be it from me to assume the role of our leaders who are meeting later today and deciding on a lot of things. But let me tell you that the Secretariat of the GCC will make a very clear statement on what will be discussed today in the meeting. For us in Qatar, and not only in Qatar, I think in the region as a whole, we have always put forth that diplomatic resolutions should be given primacy over any other solutions. And we have seen, in many conflicts, including this one, that at the end, the conflict is ended on the negotiation table. That said, the Gulf countries, including Qatar, we have taken all the military precautions and put them in place to make sure that we are safe. We have an interception rate of more than 98% of all the projectiles launched at our country, and we are continuing that. And we have said many times before that we maintain our right for protecting our sovereignty and making sure that these attacks don't go unanswered. But we always, of course, give priority to diplomacy. Right now, there are talks in place. The talks are progressing. Yes, there are still difficulties in the talks, but there is a process that has led to the ceasefire that we are in right now, and we hope for that to continue and we reach a diplomatic resolution.
Thank you, Doctor. Could you just describe what is it like for Qatar and other regional countries living with this uncertainty, not knowing if the war is going to restart and if or when the Strait of Hormuz will be reopened?
Well, it's never a good thing to live in any kind of uncertainty, especially when this is affecting people's lives in this region and beyond. It's affecting our economies, it's affecting the prosperity and the stability of this region. We are living in an interconnected world where a shipment that cannot go through the Strait of Hormuz affects energy prices in your hometown and has an effect on, as I said before, on food security, on industries around the world, on energy prices, which is something that makes it very clear that this region's issue is an international issue. The issue of the Strait of Hormuz and the issue of this war is not something that can be localized and regionalized. It is something that is affecting all of us collectively. And therefore, I think for us here in the region, the message was always very clear. We need to solve this issue, and we need to find an end that would give the security of the world a rest from what is happening right now, but also would provide sustainable solutions for the future. We do not want to see a return to hostilities in the region anytime soon. We do not want to see a frozen conflict that ends up being thawed every time there is a political reason for that to happen. And therefore, we are very keen to see an end to this war that is sustainable, that takes into account all of our concerns in the region and beyond, and that puts an end to the economic impact of this war on all of us in the world. أنور من قاعد هناك بعيد اليوم.
Far behind this week. Next time I'll be close. I have two questions. First, is the duty, or do we expect today's Gulf Summit to come up with an initiative aiming at resolving the crisis, a Gulf initiative? This will cause the Secretary General to be angry. A second question, what is Qatar's position on an Iranian proposal to separate the Strait of Hormuz issue from the nuclear dossier? Is Qatar supportive of this proposal? Once again, I refer you to the Secretary General of the bloc, and I am certain that they will have a press conference today. As to the second part of the question, we endorse Pakistani mediation efforts within the context of the daily efforts. We have been a mediator in many world conflicts, and we know that mediators must be given ample room in order to function, in order to come up with solutions. For us, the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz is a clear matter. From the very beginning, the Strait of Hormuz can never be used as a bargaining chip or political leverage. Throughout decades, and despite the many crises that were unfolding in the region, the Strait of Hormuz was never been used as leverage. Therefore, the issue of the Strait of Hormuz is not part of the battle. On the contrary, we see that the Strait of Hormuz must be opened immediately without any delay or bargain from any party. Thank you, and see you next week.